Hey everyone, what's the crack? Lawrence here with another really exciting video. Over the last couple of days, I guess we've been all kind of wondering about the G923, just to see, how different is it, all that kind of stuff. I was initially planning on doing a full review video, but I think the only real part that people really care about is the Trueforce technology. What exactly does it mean? Is it just lipstick on a pig? Is it just, the same old, same old? So in today's video, I aim to tackle that in a pretty concise video with all the information that you need to make your own decisions on whether this product is for you or not. I'll be looking at it through the eyes of somebody who is in the market for buying a new wheel, but also, of course, through the eyes of somebody who's used to using a lot of this type of equipment, and what exactly do we get for our money, all that kind of stuff. So the focus is Trueforce. It's not a general G29 or G920 or G whatever it's called review. This is solely focused on Trueforce. So let's dive in and find out what Trueforce is all about. So the focus of today's video is going to be the brand new Logitech G923 wheel with iRacing. What is Trueforce? What exactly does it mean? What's the difference between it being turned on and turned off? How does it work? And yeah, wow, what is the actual difference? Because at a glance, even on paper, it looks to be exactly the same. Now, what I have been told by Logitech themselves is that this is not just a firmware update. So I think that's pretty important. Even though the motors are the same as the older wheels. Now, I asked, well, if it's, what is the actual difference? It's not just firmware. What have you changed? So they've changed a lot of the circuitry, and they've a new processor in there to apparently be able to accommodate this new Trueforce algorithm that they're using. And I know very little about that algorithm. I do know about using it. I've used it now. You do feel a difference between it being turned on and turned off. It is somewhat akin to what you might get from a butt kicker or something that gives you haptic feedback, that gives you immersion or cues for when things are happening. The most notable of which is the actual gear change. So when I have Trueforce switched off, it very much feels like any old Logitech G wheel. So for those of you considering potentially upgrading to a G923 from a G920 or whatever, maybe that's not entirely worth the upgrade. Now, if your main titles are Assetto Corsa Competizione or iRacing, you might want to consider it, because it does add a level of immersion that you might be missing right now. So we'll see how all that performs when we do a little driving test in just a second. So let's go and have a look at how we actually turn on and off our Trueforce settings in iRacing. So the first thing you're going to have to do is go to your Documents folder and open your iRacing folder. You've got this app INI that you may have edited in the past, and you want to do a search in here for Trueforce. So you'll see that there's actually already an entry in there. So iRacing is aware of this. They just don't officially support one of the settings here that we're going to be changing. So by default, this is what you get. You get these three lines, and you get Trueforce Vibe enabled. So that's the initial game sound based vibrations that happen through the wheel, and they even call it vibrations here. It's very much it's no secret that it's just a vibration thing. It's not necessarily even though the vibration is delivered through the force feedback motors within your wheelbase, it is largely vibration based. So you've got this vibe gain, the decibels. I wouldn't touch that, just leave that alone. This is the interesting one. So this one is set to 0, uses game audio. Now, the interesting part, and I'm going to show you here, what actually happens is even when you turn off your in-game audio, you can actually still hear the game audio through your wheelbase. So that's really odd. But that was a bit of a surprise. That is the less desirable of the two settings. and the physics generated vibrations are actually not too bad. So let's have a look at this here. Let's dive in. So here we go. We're now driving in iRacing with Trueforce enabled, but it's based off the game audio. So you're going to see it's very, very difficult to actually see how this one works, because you get all your kind of default force feedback. Now I'm running pretty decent settings for iRacing on the wheel, but I don't notice a huge amount of difference right now, because it's all game audio related. So once your engine gets up to revs, once you get a couple of revs in your engine, it does kind of vibrate, but you know what, to be honest, I wouldn't notice the difference the way unless I came directly from a unit which doesn't have this at all. I don't really notice the Trueforce when it's audio based. So this one isn't very, very exciting. What I will ask you to just take note of is, and keep an eye on the steering wheel. So you see here, as I change gear, there's not much happening. The steering wheel doesn't really react. It's all audio related. So when I make loud noises, like going on the turf, you get some extra forces through the wheel, but you know, not too different to having your curb effects or whatever turned up. Obviously, as soon as you turn down that audio setting, you get less force through the wheel. The issue with that is, and that works great with butt kickers and like traditional games where you're you know, shooting a gun, for instance. You shoot, there's a big bang, it's an audio cue, and that causes something to happen. So that's a great kind of feedback to get. But there's so much going on in a car that you know, if you want to know when the rear of the car is sliding, audio isn't going to tell you that until, you know, you hear tire squeal. But you know, you're not going to hear it over the engine. You're not going to be able to differentiate it. So this one's not too exciting. Let's go and turn on the Trueforce Vibe physics, where it actually takes the physics data rather than just the audio data. So this time we're running with the physics rather than the game audio. So it's actually connected to the physics. So when I do change gear, I get a fairly consistent gear change effect, even if it doesn't make much of an audio difference. I get a fairly consistent thud through the steering wheel, and that kind of goes across the board for all of your physics effect. Now, I don't know right now how I can tune those effects. I'd probably like to be able to set it up so that I could actually detect when there are slides, because when I was using my G923, I got a butt kicker Gamer 2 for the sole purpose of knowing when the rear of the car was breaking loose. I would love to be able to tune this so that you only feel that vibration when the rear is breaking loose, for example, so that you have a very recognizable feeling through the steering wheel that you can rely on, so that you don't have to react when it's too late. Because everybody knows, with the biggest difference between a G-Series wheel and a belt-driven wheel or a direct drive wheel is that it's much easier to correct or catch a slide on the more high-end wheels. So the more you can get built into your Logitech wheel that actually gives you that information, the better. So all in all, it does actually feel better in this mode than the other mode. I can't tell you exactly why, because I'm still getting to grips with using a wheel that doesn't have a hell of a lot of force feedback. I think I've been getting too used to using direct drive lately, and I'm kind of relearning the subtleties of force feedback, whereas with direct drive it'd be a lot more brute force. So this is going to be a little bit of a journey for me. I can categorically say that it definitely feels better with the physics related Trueforce compared to the audio. I wouldn't even bother with the audio related setting. So right now iRacing doesn't support it within its own UI. You have to do that app INI configuration change, but that in a nutshell is Trueforce. Again, to recap, you don't get new motors here. Trueforce works through the existing motors. there's new firmware and there's new circuitry. There's a new processor which does more samples per second, and the processor allows it to, I guess, process that new enhanced algorithm. It definitely does give a lot more feel and a lot more confidence than the standard model. So there you have it. That is iRacing with Trueforce in a nutshell. Definitely use that physics-based Trueforce because you don't want to be using that game audio. That's a little bit gimmicky, like something you'd get in an arcade machine. The Trueforce that you get from the game physics is pretty good, and as it kind of develops and as people find out how to tweak it and all that, I can see that being a lot better. It is, again, very complementary to what a butt kicker does. I'd love to see in future if SimHub and the likes could actually tap into this Trueforce system so that you can tweak it exactly as you like. Bear in mind what I said about when I got my butt kicker, the sole reason for me getting that butt kicker so I could know what the car was doing. So I used to set it up so that as soon as the rear wheel started breaking traction, it would vibrate. In theory, you can do something very similar with this. And the biggest problem with these Logitech G wheels is often that, you know, it's very difficult to catch a slide. It's very difficult to know what's happening when it's actually happening. You kind of usually find out after the fact, or you need to be so used to the wheel that you can predict that it's going to happen. So that would be pretty cool because it can send you vibration quicker than it can send you actual wheel rotation, just due to the motors. Bear in mind, these motors are what, 10, 12 years old now, 13 years old actually, I think. So they're kind of moving on. They are good enough, you know, they're very, very reliable. This is a brilliant entry-level wheel. I will go into more detail on that when I do a full review of this product, but that for now is Trueforce explained. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it was informative to all of you. I hope it kind of breaks down the decorative language and the marketing spiel, so that you know exactly what you are and what you aren't getting. Is it revolutionary? Probably not. It's evolutionary. This is a good new version. Some people may have expected more, but I'm pretty sure that the smarts in here right now, I mean, this product is only out a couple of days. We don't know the half of what we can actually do if we get to eventually tap into this. I know that the developer SDK needs to support it, so like iRacing and Assetto Corsa Competizione right now are the only ones that actually support it, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody at some stage connects SimHub up to this, which means we can use it in Assetto Corsa, all those kind of games. So yeah, really, really interesting. Pretty cool to be able to be one of the first to have a look at this system. I hope that you liked the format of this video. I didn't want to make it too complicated. And that's all there is to it. So thanks a million for watching. If you like what you see, do hit that subscribe button. If you have any comments or feedback of your own, please put it in the comments below. If you want to tell Logitech stuff, please don't tell me that because I don't speak for Logitech. I am just a reviewer of this wheel. If you're looking whether you should actually buy this wheel or not, I give it a big thumbs up. If you already have a G wheel, you're going to have to look at all the various videos and decide for yourself. It's really cool. The buttons all work great. It's a really cool wheel. I will have other reviews on this in future, so if there are any other aspects of the wheel that you want to know about, please do ask me in the comments below. I'm Lawrence, thanks a million for watching the video, and I will chat to you all later.